All right, let's talk some Denver Broncos. They're in an interesting spot, right? Obviously, what exactly do you want to do here? What's the move? Where are you going with? A big question is going to be the quarterback position, where the Broncos have kind of seemingly been that team that's a quarterback away, well, basically since they lost Peyton Manning. It's kind of been in that weird way where they've been able to keep a pretty talented roster around, the quarterback position. They just haven't been able to get that star quarterback yet. So obviously that's the first question you ask a lot of teams in the offseason, what's the quarterback? But first, let's take a step back and let's just look at, what's your cap space situation and who could you be losing in free agency. So here we are. So Broncos cap space, they have a decent amount of money, $38 million, but they also have a decent amount of free agents that they're losing. So that's part of why they have the money that they can go out and spend. Now, in fairness, the first guy on this list, the one who, by the way, just so you know what you're looking at, the numbers next to each of these guys, that's how many millions of dollars Pro Football Focus is projecting they will get in free agency. So, for Teddy Bridgewater at the top, he's at the top of the list here, but is he actually, do you care if you're losing Bridgewater? I mean, it might not be a horrible move to let him walk here. So that's, I think, something that, doesn't discourage you as much here. Alexander Johnson, you'd probably like to keep. I mean, I think he's looked good in the playing time that he's had. So I think there is some value in re-signing him. Same thing like a Josie Jewell, who it's he's barely played. He was a 4th-round pick in 2018, but he's looked fine when he's played. So maybe you re-sign him as well. I don't know. It's kind of weird. You also have Bryce Callahan, who's had some good years for the Denver Broncos. Last year wasn't his strongest, but he has had some good years. And for $5 million, I keep him for that. I think that's worth signing on for. Same thing like Kareem Jackson. I think that's kind of a steal to get Kareem Jackson at just $4 million. Sign me up for that. I guess last year, wasn't his best year, but a lot of guys had that in Denver, and he is getting older. I mean, he'll be 34 next year, so maybe that's the concern, but I'm willing to take that chance if it's just $4 million. Now, Melvin Gordon at $6 million, I don't know about that one. I mean, running back for that much, I just don't think it's worth it, really, especially when, you just drafted a good running back in Javonte Williams. Gordon's good, too. I like Gordon as a player, but it's just I don't see what the added value of doing that is. I'd rather just, a nickel and dime and spend $1.5 million on someone who can also be just a good backup for Williams. Also, Kyle Fuller, who's obviously, he's another guy who's had some good years. Last year, not his best. So if they wanted to re-sign everybody at the current tag that they're projected to get, they would need $49 million, which would mean they'd have to clear $11 million. But obviously, just not signing Teddy Bridgewater makes that fine. But then who's going to play quarterback for you is the other question. As for the players they can cut without getting a big cap penalty, without having a ton of dead cap, not really guys that would make sense. I put Dalton Reisner on this list, but no chance they should do that. He's an above average guard, and he would only save $2 million, so that would be insane to do. Maybe you can get rid of a guy on this list or two, but why would you? It's not really moving the needle in any way. Going over here, this is where PFF ranked the Denver Broncos in terms of each positional category. So what you notice is that the passing game wasn't actually horrible, which I think a lot of people knew. It's okay, this wasn't the ideal passing scenario, but it wasn't the worst in the world either. Bridgewater's a fine quarterback, so having him on the roster, it's a decent floor. You don't have that ceiling. He's not gonna drag you kicking and screaming to a Super Bowl. And quite frankly, in today's football, where it's a passing league, it's very hard to really make a deep playoff run with a Teddy Bridgewater. You kind of, at the very least, need a Matt Stafford, and probably need someone better than that to consistently have success. But again, we'll see. That's a conversation for another day. Offensive line and receiving core, maybe not as good as we hoped it would be heading into this season. And again, part of you wonders, is Teddy Bridgewater to do with that? I think Bridgewater gets a lot of blame for it, and he's going to be the scapegoat, but I don't know if he's the only issue here. But you still have, you have Tim Patrick, you have Jerry Jeudy, you have Cortland Sutton. That should be at least a good enough receiving core. So that's kind of what you would suspect, at least. I already talked about the running game. That should be pretty good. And then the defense, which was supposed to be this awesome defense, really wasn't. Their coverage unit, who I had projected to be the best in football last year, according to PFF, was 21st in football. which, again, I mean, they have this, like, a lot of great secondary players. Like Patrick Surtain had a good rookie season. You hope he can continue to improve. I don't know what, like, flaws he has in his game that he needs to improve upon, because, like, you know, unless he's going to get faster, like, I don't know what else he could do to improve upon those skills, because he pretty much has everything else, every other aspect of the corner just down. But like we thought the Kyle Fuller thing could pay off in a big way. It didn't really. We thought the Ronald Darby thing could pay off in a big way. It didn't really. As I said, Bryce Callahan kind of took a step back. Kareem Jackson kind of took a step back. Justin Simmons is still awesome, but, like, you know, a lot of well-known players, but it doesn't matter what the name on the back of your jersey is. You have to actually go out and play football. So that coverage unit just wasn't as good as we expected it to be. The edge rusher spot also not great. Part of that, they traded away Von Miller, so, like, that's an aspect. And just the pass rush in general could use some improvement for sure. So yeah, that's what I think about the Denver Broncos. They're in an interesting spot. They're a good football team, clearly. There's a lot of talent on this roster, but they're not a great one. And for them to become a great one, they have to make some improvements. That's just kind of where I'm at. They have the cap space to do it. So there's even been speculation, which I don't think is crazy, because obviously, the top guys, sure. Go after the star quarterbacks if you can, absolutely. But those are kind of pipe dream scenarios. Top quarterbacks tend to not leave too often. So let's just say you can't get your hands on one of those, and even if they do leave, there's typically a lot of bidders for them. So let's just say you can't get one of those guys. Well, then what do? You could re-sign a Teddy Bridgewater and say, hey, this is baseline quarterback play, fine. You could draft a guy, although it's not a great quarterback draft. There still has been speculation that that's what they could do. Or you could go after a Kirk Cousins, he would cost $35 million, which is not cheap, and he reportedly wants an extension. You could afford that, though, although you would probably lose some other aspects, which, again, that's kind of the whole argument of Cousins, right? Is, yes, you're getting a very talented player, but you're not getting a superstar player that's going to completely elevate your team and drag them kicking and screaming to a championship. And if you're not getting that, is he worth paying that much money for? I don't know. So, and you might have to give up assets, I would think, to also make that work. So that's kind of where the dilemma comes in for Denver. And I don't know if they make that move, but at the same time, what else do? They probably could. I wouldn't be shocked if they draft a guy, but is that a decision you want to make? Because typically you give a guy more than just one season. So are you giving him multiple years when next year is supposed to be a good quarterback draft? So if you like a guy, draft him. They're kind of in a weird spot there. And I know that, people like to say, hey, just a quarterback away. Well, that's pretty far away because the quarterback's the hard position to get. But yeah, that's where I think the Denver Broncos are currently at. Where do you think they're at? Let me know in the comments below. What is your thought on the Denver Broncos? What do you think that they're going to do heading into this 2022 season? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.